The air was gone. Aiden Cross could feel it. The way his chest tightened, the way his vision blurred. The oxygen warning screamed in his helmet, a shrill alarm drilling into his skull. And outside the cracked viewport, death waited. Massive. Creatures armored like tanks, claws like blades, were tearing through the wreckage of his ship. Their long, jagged teeth dripped with thick black saliva that hissed when it hit metal. One of them lifted a twisted piece of hull and crushed it in its jaws like paper. And the timer in his visor read, 2:59 3 minutes. 3 minutes before, the core exploded and turned this valley into molten glass. If he didn't move now, there wouldn't even be ashes left to find. This was the deadliest planet in the known galaxy. A place no rescue ship would dare to land. And he had just crash-landed in the middle of it. The first explosion was small. A shudder that rattled what was left of the control panel. Sparks rained down on him, sizzling against his flight suit. He coughed. The air smelled of burning circuits and blood. His own blood. Aiden, the voice was calm, cold, artificial. His AI assistant, Hera. Oxygen supply is at 23%. Recommend immediate evacuation. Yeah, he gasped, yanking the emergency release lever. I got that. The hatch was jammed. He kicked it once. Twice. On the third kick, the door blew open with a burst of smoke and dust. Outside, the world felt wrong. The sky was a deep, sickly green. The ground steamed. Pools of black liquid bubbled like tar, and everywhere, those things moved. Dozens of them. Four-legged, armored in jagged plates, tails whipping through the air like steel cables. One turned its head toward him. Its four eyes glowed, locked onto him. He ran. The ground shook under his boots. The sound of claws on rock fast, getting closer. Hare's voice cut through the pounding of his heart. Core detonation in 2 minutes, 20 seconds. He leaped over a fallen strut, slid under a collapsed wing section. The air in his lungs burned. Helmet filter hissed with every breath, fighting to keep the toxic atmosphere out. Something slammed into the ground behind him. It's hard enough to send a shockwave through the dirt. He stumbled, almost fell, then kept going. Up ahead, a split in the valley wall. Ow. A narrow gap, half blocked by fallen boulders. If he could just reach it. The roar hit him first. Low, deep, so powerful it made his ribs vibrate. He didn't. Look back, didn't dare. He dived through the gap, scraping his suit against the rock. The creature behind him lunged, but its bulk slammed into the stone instead, sending a spray of shards into the air. He kept running until the sound faded. Only then did he stop, bent over. His visor clock flashed red. 0:52 warning. Hera said, her voice almost bored. Radiation levels will spike upon detonation. Recommend reaching minimum safe distance. Thanks for the pep talk. He muttered, forcing himself forward again. When the explosion came, it was like the planet itself screamed. A blinding flash tore through the valley, followed by a wave of fire and debris that rolled over the landscape. Even in the narrow canyon, the heat hit him like a wall, pushing him to his knees. Dust and ash rained down. The ground trembled for long seconds before going still. He coughed again, this time harder. The air was thicker now, the filter in his helmet whining in protest. How bad? He asked. Hera didn't hesitate. Without filtration, atmospheric toxins will cause fatal organ failure in 6 minutes. He scanned the canyon walls. Jagged. Rock. No shelter. If those creatures found another way around the gap, he'd be trapped. No rescue. No comes. No ship. Just him, in a world designed to kill anything foolish enough to set foot on it. He climbed the canyon wall, hands slipping. On the rough stone, every movement felt heavier. He told himself it was just the thin air. But he knew better. The suit's warning icons told the truth. The toxins were leaking in. When he reached the top, he froze. The land stretched out in every direction. A nightmare of twisted trees and steaming pits. In the distance, something the size of a transport shuttle moved between the shadows, its long tail dragging across the ground. But it wasn't that monster that made his breath catch. It was the figure standing at the tree line. Tall, thin, petal-eyed. It just stood there, watching him. The wind tugged at long strands of fabric hanging from its shoulders. Its head was smooth, featureless, except for 2 points of light where eyes should be. Aiden didn't move. He didn't blink because he had the sudden cold feeling. That, whatever it was, had been waiting for him. He slowly lifted a hand, not a wave, just a small, cautious movement. The figure tilted its head. Then it turned, and in 3 long strides, it vanished into the jungle. Her's voice broke. The silence. Aiden, I recommend immediate relocation. That entity is not registered in any database. He swallowed hard. Yeah, no kidding. Looked at the jungle where it had disappeared. Then back at the smoking crater that had been his ship. Either way, danger waited, and Aiden Cross had no choice but to walk straight into it. Aiden didn't sleep. He said every sound in the jungle pressed against his nerves. The crack of branches, the low growl of something far away. The hiss of steam vents in the ground, and always. The memory of the figure, tall, bipedal, watching him from the tree line, he kept replaying it in his mind. The way it tilted its head, the way it didn't move like the creatures below, the way it left without attacking. Why? The toxic air clawed at his throat. His helmet's filter worked harder now, humming with strain. Warrior's voice came through, steady as ever. Oxygen filter at 46%. Recommend replacement cartridge within the next 4 hours. Aiden gave a bitter laugh. Yeah, let me just check. The store down the street? The jungle loomed in front of him. Its twisted trees with black bark and leaves like knives. Strange glowing insects drifted between branches, their soft light revealing brief flashes of movement deeper inside. He didn't want to go in there. But staying out here in the open was suicide. The crater where his ship had been was already crawling with scavenger beasts. Some of them were picking through the wreckage. Others were eating each other. He tightened the straps on his pack. 1 cartridge left for the filter, half a ration bar, no real weapons. And somewhere out there, the thing that had been watching him. He stepped into the jungle. The air was hotter here, heavy with a sweet, rotting smell. The ground was soft, his boots sinking slightly into a layer of damp moss. Every step made a wet, sucking sound. Hera kept scanning, feeding quiet updates into his helmet. Movement detected 30 meters east. Unknown life form, 60 meters overhead. Warning, airborne spores detected. Filter strain increasing. Then a sound, not an animal call. Not the hiss of a vent or the crack of a branch. A voice low, harsh, speaking words he didn't know. He froze. Hand going to the small metal pipe he'd taken from the wreck, the closest thing he had to a weapon. The voice came again. Closer. Now. Then the figure stepped from the shadows. It was taller than he'd thought. Over 7 feet, its frame lean but strong. Skin or maybe armor of dull, dark metal. 2 eyes glowing faint yellow. Its face was ridged, almost insect dash-like in one hand. A long spear, the tip slick with black venom. They stared at each other. Neither moved. The alien spoke again, words clicking and growling in its throat. Shara's translator activated instantly. It worked quickly, stumbling at first, then smoothing out. The alien's voice came through his cum in a flat translation. Leave this place, or be hunted. Aiden's grip tightened on the metal pipe, not much of a welcome. The alien's eyes narrowed. You are human, said the word like a curse. Your kind brings fire. War. Leave, before the forest takes you. Aiden's chest tightened. I don't exactly have a ship anymore. The alien tilted its head again, studying him. Then, without warning, it reached into a pouch at its side and tossed something at his feet. A small wrapped bundle. Food, or what passed for it here. Before he could say anything, the alien stepped back into the shadows and was gone. Aiden crouched, picking up the bundle. Inside was a strip of dried meat, dark, stringy, with a strange smell. He didn't trust it, but his stomach growled anyway. Her's voice broke the silence. Composition. high protein, slightly toxic to humans. Effects minimal if consumed in small amounts. Aiden bit off a small piece. It was tough. Salty. Not good. But not bad enough to spit out. He moved deeper into the jungle, the light fading as the canopy thickened overhead. It was like walking through the ribs of some enormous dead creature. The branches curved inward. Black vines hanging like chains. Every so often, he caught glimpses of movement in the distance, shadows shifting, eyes watching. The alien was still out there. He could feel it. An hour later, he found a small clearing. A stream ran through it, the water strangely blue and faintly glowing. Hera confirmed it was not drinkable without processing. He set down his pack, kneeling to refill his canister through the filter. That's when the sound came fast, sharp, cutting through the jungle's background noise. Footsteps. He turned, expecting the alien again. It wasn't. The creature that stepped into the clearing was low to the ground, its back armored in jagged plates. Its mouth was a cluster of spinning teeth, grinding against each other with a horrible sound, and its eyes fixed on him. It hissed, its body tensing to strike. Aiden raised the metal pipe. His heart pounded. He knew he couldn't kill it, maybe not even hurt it, but he wasn't going to die without trying. The creature leaped. Something blurred past. Him, the alien warrior, the same one from before, slammed into the beast midair, spear driving deep into its side. The creature screamed, thrashing, snapping its spinning teeth. Black venom hissed as it spread from the spear's tip. And in seconds, the creature went still. The alien pulled the spear free, shaking off the blood. "You, again," Aiden breathed. The alien didn't answer right away. Looked him over, the weapon in his hand, the lack of armor, the damaged suit. Finally it said, "You would have been dead without me." "Yeah," Aiden said. "I figured that part out." They stood in silence, the dead beast between them. Then the alien spoke again. "This world kills the weak. You are weak. But you are fast, clever. That might keep you alive." "That's the plan," Aiden said, half-dashed smiling. The alien's eyes narrowed, not understanding the expression. Then it gave a short, sharp sound, almost like a laugh, but not quite. "My name is Theravin," it said at last. The words were heavy. "Formal, Aiden Cross," he replied. Theravin looked toward the deeper jungle. "Night comes soon. The dark brings worse than this." It gestured to the dead creature. "Come or die alone." Aiden hesitated. He didn't trust this alien, but alone wouldn't last the night. He shouldered his pack. "Lead the way." Moved through the jungle together, Theravin silent most of the time, Aiden struggling to keep pace with the alien's long stride. Hera scanned constantly, reporting life forms in every direction. Some were small, some were not. Once they passed the remains of something large, bones the size of Aiden's legs snapped clean through. Theravin didn't slow down. As they walked, Aiden noticed marks on the tree's deep cuts arranged in strange patterns. "Territory markers," Theravin said, without looking back. "Mine." Aiden glanced over his shoulder. "Territory? So you live here?" "I survive here," the alien replied. "It is not the same." The light faded. Fast, replaced by a dim green glow from moss clinging to the trees. Every now and then, a shape moved in the distance, too fast to identify, too quiet to track. When they finally stopped, it was in a small hollow surrounded by jagged rock. It's a shallow cave, its entrance half covered by heavy vines. Inside it was dry, and most importantly, enclosed. Thera. Ven dropped his spear against the wall and began setting small stones in a circle. From a pouch, he pulled a black powder and scattered it across the stones. When he struck them together, the powder ignited with a cold blue flame. It didn't give much heat, but Aiden noticed the shadows outside keeping their distance. Predators. "Hate this light," Theravin said simply. Then he sat. Aiden lowered himself onto the rock floor, the exhaustion finally catching up to him. The alien didn't look at him, busy sharpening his spear. Hera's voice came through his helmet, softer. "Now, recommendation. Maintain alliance with Theravin. Survival probability increases by 73%. Aiden glanced at the alien warrior. and for the first time since he crashed, he allowed himself to breathe just a little easier. Outside, the jungle whispered, things moved, things hunted. But for tonight, he wasn't alone, and somewhere in the darkness, something else was watching. The roar shook the ground. It wasn't close. It was here. The cave walls rattled, dust drifting from the ceiling. Outside, branches cracked thick, heavy, one after another. Tharavan froze, spear in hand. That, he whispered, should not be here. Don didn't like the sound of that. What is it? The alien's eyes stayed on the cave mouth. The apex. He didn't have time to ask questions. The jungle erupted. A massive shadow tore through the vines outside, snapping them like threads. The thing that stepped into view was nightmare-made flesh. Its head was wide, armored, with jaws big enough to crush a shuttle hull. Two long tusks curved forward, each dripping with thick yellow saliva. Its body was a mountain of muscle and plates, its tail ending in a spiked mace bigger than Aiden's torso, and its eyes were wrong. They glowed. Not naturally. But with a faint, mechanical blue light, the apex locked onto them. Instantly, Aiden stepped back until his shoulders hit the wall. Tell me you can kill that thing. The Raven didn't answer. Instead, he moved fast, scooping up a small pouch from the floor and slinging it over his back. Move. The apex lunged. The cave entrance exploded in a spray of rock and dirt. Aiden and Tharavan bolted out the side passage, boots pounding the damp earth. The ground shook with every step the beast took. Trees snapped like matchsticks behind them. HERAS. Voice cut in over the chaos. Warning. Creature mass exceeds 5 metric tons. Recommend immediate evasion, no kidding, Aiden shouted, leaping over a fallen log. They burst into a wider section of jungle. No cover, just open ground. Bad idea, Aiden gasped. Only way, Tharavan growled, scanning the terrain. His eyes landed on a cluster of plants with bulbous, glowing pods. He pointed those, ran toward the plants, the apex gaining with every step. Aiden could hear it breathing now, deep, thunderous. The sound of its claws tearing through. Soil and rock, THARA, single quotes VEN, reached the pods first, jabbing his spear into one. The skin split, and the inside lit up brighter, heat rolling off it. What are these? Aiden asked, skidding to a stop. Fire pods. The apex charged. Tharavan ripped another pod open and hurled it at the ground in front of the beast. The impact sent a burst of flame and smoke into the air. The apex didn't stop. It plowed through the fire like it was nothing. Not enough, Aiden yelled. Then give it more, Tharavan snarled. Aiden grabbed a fallen branch, used it. To smack 3 pods at once, they burst in a chain reaction, fire rolling across the ground. This time, the apex slowed, just for a moment. Its eyes flickered. Tharavan didn't waste the chance. He hurled his spear, hitting the creature just under the jaw where the armor was thinner. The apex roared. Staggering back, Aiden ran forward without thinking, grabbing one of the unbroken pods and shoving it into the wound. The heat made his gloves smoke, but he didn't stop. He jammed it in deeper, then jumped back. Tharavan was already moving. He scooped another pod and hurled it straight at the one Aiden had planted. The explosion was deafening. The apex's head jerked back, smoke pouring from its mouth. It stumbled and collapsed in a shower of dirt and broken branches. Aiden's chest heaved. It was shaking so badly he could barely stand. Tell me that's dead, he said. Tharavan approached cautiously, spear raised. It will not rise again. He crouched beside the massive head, studying it. Then he froze. Without a word, Tharavan reached into the wound and pulled something free. It was metal, small, smooth, shaped almost like a disc, but pulsing faint. Blue light. Aiden frowned. What is that? Tharavan turned it over in his hands, his expression unreadable. It is not from this world. Her's voice was sharp now. Confirmed. Object is foreign technology. Energy signature matches. Tracking and control devices used by galactic hunting syndicates. Aiden's stomach dropped. You mean someone was controlling that thing? Yes, Hera replied. And if my readings are correct, they still are. The jungle around them was suddenly too quiet. Thorvin's eyes moved to the sky. They will come for their prize. Who? Hunters. Far above, a sound broke the silence, low at first, then rising. Engines. Aiden's heart kicked into overdrive. You've got to be kidding me. Theravin grabbed his spear and the strange disc, shoving them into his pouch. Move now. They ran again, deeper into the jungle. The sound of engines grew louder. Leaves shook overhead, the shadows of something large passing across the canopy. Then, a sharp beam of light cut down through the trees, sweeping across the ground. Scanning, Hera said quickly. Recommend breaking line of sight. They dove under a thick cluster of roots. Pressing themselves into the damp earth, the beam passed over once. Twice. Then the engines shifted position. Aiden's breath came slow and shallow. He knew what was happening. Whoever had sent that apex after them knew exactly where they were. When the sound finally faded, Aiden let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Thorvin's voice was low, grim. They will not stop. Who are they? Aiden asked. The alien's gaze stayed on the canopy above. Hunters from the stars. They come to this world to prove themselves. To kill dangerous prey. You are now the most dangerous prey here, Aiden. Swallowed hard. So what's the plan? Theravin met his eyes. Survive until they are dead. But even as he said it, the engines returned. Closer this time. And this time, they were not alone. The first shot missed Aiden's head by inches. It slammed into the tree behind him, trunk exploding into splinters. He dropped flat to the ground. Above, the canopy lit up with streaks of blue plasma fire. Thorvin's voice was a sharp growl. They are here. A shadow passed overhead. A ship, black, sleek, shaped like a blade. It dropped fast into the clearing, engines screaming. Metal hatches on its underside split open and figures spilled out, tall, armored, moving with perfect coordination. They weren't here to search. They were here to kill. Aiden crawled behind a thick root, his breath loud in his helmet. Any chance they're friendly? Theravin didn't even look at him. No. The first mercenary landed just 10 meters away. Its armor was jagged, black and silver, the helmet shaped like the skull of some predator. It raised its weapon. A long rifle with a hooked bayonet at the end. Theravin moved before it could fire. One smooth motion, spear raised.
Ow.
Thrown, the weapon punched clean through the mercenary's chest plate. It fell back without a sound. Theravin ripped the spear free as the others opened fire. Aiden ducked, the air sizzling as plasma bolts ripped past him. He scrambled toward the fallen mercenary, grabbing the rifle with shaking hands. It was heavy. Too heavy, but the targeting scope lit up instantly when he pressed the grip. He didn't have time to think. Fired. The blast hit another mercenary square in the side, sending it crashing into the undergrowth. Aiden didn't know if it was dead. He didn't care. Move, Theravin barked, shoving him toward the deeper jungle. They ran. The mercenaries followed. Their armor didn't slow them. If anything, they seemed faster, moving like predators. Through the shadows, voice cut in, calm but urgent. They are tracking our heat signatures. Recommend disrupting trail. Aiden spotted a cluster of steaming vents ahead. Through there. They dove into the mist, the hot air burning. Aiden skinned through the suit. The vents hissed like angry snakes, the ground slippery with slick black algae behind them. The mercenaries paused, their scanners flickering in the thick heat distortion. It bought them seconds. Seconds, then one of the mercenaries fired into the vent cloud at random. The bolt hit a vent opening, igniting the escaping gas in a burst of flame. Aiden and Theravin were thrown to the ground. The heat was like a wave, rolling over them. Theravin pulled Aiden up by the arm. Keep moving. They pushed deeper until the steam thinned, breaking into a rocky gorge. Walls rose high on either side. Good cover, but also a trap if the mercenaries cut them off. Aiden's rifle hummed. Low power warning. He tossed it aside. Too heavy, too slow. Where do we go? He asked. Thoravin didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the far end of the gorge. A figure stood there, not a mercenary. Different armor, gold and dark green, with a helmet shaped like a sharp beak. In its hands, a curved blade that shimmered like liquid. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. The way it stepped forward told them everything. It was here for the hunt. Thoravin raised his spear. "Keep to my side," he said. The gold-armored hunter moved fast, too fast. One moment it was at the far end, the next it was in striking distance. Thoravin blocked the first slash, the blade sparking off his spear shaft. The second strike came lower, almost cutting Aiden's leg. He stumbled back, grabbing a jagged rock from the ground. The hunter pressed Thoravin hard, every move precise and deadly. But Thoravin matched it, deflecting, countering, forcing it to step back. Aiden saw his chance. While the hunter's attention was locked on Thoravin, stepped in from the side and smashed the rock against its helmet. The blow made the hunter stagger just for a moment. It was enough. Thoravin's spear shot forward, punching through a joint in the armor. The hunter dropped to its knees. Thoravin yanked the blade from its hands and tossed it to Aiden. "Keep it. You will need it." Before they could move on, Heer's voice came again. Warning. Additional signatures inbound. 11 hostiles. Distance closing rapidly. Aiden swore. "They just keep coming, yes," Thoravin said. "They will keep coming until one of us is dead." They ran again, following the gorge until it opened into another section of jungle. The trees here were taller, their roots forming massive arches. Beneath one of them, they found the remains of an old structure, rusted metal beams. Half buried in dirt inside, scattered debris, weapons, armor, old but still usable. Aiden grabbed a short, thick-barreled weapon that felt lighter than the Merc rifle. It hummed softly when he gripped it. Thoravin took a jagged throwing blade, testing its balance with a flick of his wrist. "They will track us here," Thoravin said, "but we can take some before we leave." The first mercenary appeared moments later, stepping through the arch. Aiden fired. The blast hit center mass, dropping it instantly. More came. From the left, the right, the treetops above, it became chaos, plasma fire, shouting in alien tongues. The hiss of Thoravin's blade, cutting through armor. Aiden fought without thinking. Block, fire, move. When it was over, 3 mercenaries lay still. The rest had pulled back for now. Aiden leaned against the arch, chest heaving. "They'll be back." "Yes," Thoravin said. "And next time, more will come." Far above, the black dropship circled, watching, waiting, and then began to descend again. The grass was burning behind them. Aiden didn't look back. He didn't have to. The sound of the drones was already in his head, that deep, metallic hum. It's like a swarm of angry hornets. Thoravin was ahead, moving fast. Over the dry ground, the open plains stretched for miles. No trees, no cover, only the wind, and the black shapes circling above. A flash, a bolt of plasma slammed into the dirt 2 meters from Aiden's feet. The blast knocked him sideways. He hit the ground hard, his breath leaving in one sharp gasp. Thoravin was there instantly, pulling him up. "Keep moving," the drones dived. Small, fast, shaped like spinning discs with a gun on each side. They fired in quick bursts, forcing Aiden and Thoravin to zigzag. Hura's voice came through Aiden's helmet. Their targeting movement. Patterns changed direction every 7 seconds. 7 seconds, Aiden gasped. Another blast hit the dirt near his leg. He changed direction instantly. The ground here was uneven, dotted with blackened craters. Aiden realized these weren't natural. They were old impact scars, and some still smoked faintly. Thoravin noticed too. This is not safe ground. Not safe. Aiden shouted over the wind, where already the earth shifted. Beneath his boot, he stumbled. A low, metallic click echoed in the air. Thoravin shoved him forward just as the ground erupted. A buried charge, some kind of alien mine, went off in a blinding flash. The blast threw them apart. Aiden landed, hard ears ringing. Through the haze, he saw one of the drones sliced in half by the explosion. The others, however, adjusted instantly, their hum growing louder. Deathworld relics, Thorovin growled, crawling toward Aiden. This place is a graveyard for armies. Aiden's chest was tight. Then why the hell are we crossing? Because behind us is worse. The drones changed formation, spreading out in a wide arc. They weren't just chasing now, they were herding. Aiden spotted a narrow dip in the land ahead. Down. They slid into the shallow trench. Just enough cover to block line of sight from the drones above. For a few precious seconds, there was only the sound of wind. Then, a sharp scraping noise from ahead. Aiden froze. It was too steady, too heavy. To be the wind, from the far end of the trench, something emerged, a low, insect-like shape. Armored in plates the color of ash, its eyes glowed a faint green, 6 legs, each tipped with a serrated blade. It wasn't fast, but it didn't need to be. The way it moved, slow, deliberate, told him it was a hunter. Thurvin's jaw tightened. Stay behind me. Thing hissed, the sound like metal tearing. Then it charged. Theravon met it head-on, spear flashing. The tip punched through one of its eyes, green fluid spraying, but the creature didn't stop. It slammed into Thurvin, knocking him sideways. Aiden didn't think he drew the gold hunter's blade Thurvin had given him back in the gorge, and drove it into the creature's side. The blade slid between armor plates with surprising ease. The creature shrieked, thrashing violently. It jerked backward, pulling the blade from Aiden's grip, and retreated deeper into the trench. Breathing hard, Aiden retrieved the blade, slick with green. Thorvin got to his feet, one shoulder dented from the impact. We moved quickly. They followed the trench until it curved sharply and ended. Aiden swore. A sheer wall of cracked stone rose in front of them, too steep to climb fast. Behind, the hum of drones returned. Above, dark shadows drifted into position, scanned the rock face. There, half hidden by vines, was a narrow fissure. It's just wide enough to squeeze through. They slipped inside just as the first drone appeared overhead. The fissure twisted, opening into a cavern. The air was cooler here, the walls lined with strange ribbed growths that pulsed faintly with light. Aiden's voice was low. What is this place? Thorobin touched the wall, his expression unreadable. Old. Very old. This was not made by my kind. Before Aiden could ask, a deep vibration passed through the stone. Not footsteps, something heavier. The ribbed walls pulsed faster, as if responding to the sound. Aiden's helmet feed flickered. Hera's voice came through, distorted warning. Biosigns. Extreme threat level. Avoid the signal cutout. From deeper in the cavern, something moved, a shape far larger than the trench creature. It crawled on multiple limbs, its head too large for its body, covered in translucent plates that showed the shifting mass beneath. Its mouth opened sideways, revealing rows of glassy teeth. Theravin gripped his spear. If it reaches the opening, we are trapped. They backed toward the fissure. But the creature was fast. Faster than it looked. Aiden fired his short weapon. The blast scorched its outer shell, but didn't slow it. Thorvin hurled a throwing blade, striking just under the headplate. The creature shrieked, slamming into the cavern wall. The ribbed growths burst, releasing a cloud of glowing spores. Aiden coughed. His suit filters whined as they worked overtime. Through the spores, the creature lunged again. Theravin grabbed Aiden and shoved him through the fissure. Run! They burst back into daylight and straight into another nightmare. The drones were waiting. Not just 3 or 4 now, at least 20, hanging in the air like a silent wall. One of them broadcast a signal, a harsh metallic voice. Human identified, surrender, or be terminated. Aiden glanced at Theravin. Options. Theravin raised his spear. 1 fight. The drones moved first. The air lit up with plasma fire. Aiden and Theravin dove behind a cluster of blackened boulders. The ground shook as bolts hit all around them. Aiden returned fire, picking off 2 drones. their frames exploding in midair. But for each one that fell, two more shifted position, boxing them in. Then a sudden, sharp tone from Aiden's helmet. Her's voice returned, faint but urgent. Coordinates. 200 meters east. Underground passage. Move now. Aiden pointed that way. Thurvin didn't argue. They sprinted across open ground, bolts chasing their heels. The coordinates led to another crater, deeper than the rest. At the bottom was a hatch half buried in dirt. Aiden yanked it open, the hinges screaming. Inside, a dark shaft with a ladder disappearing into blackness. They dropped in just as the drones fired again, the blasts scorching the crater's edge. The hatch slammed shut above them. For a long moment, there was only the sound of their breathing. Then, from the darkness below, a faint light, a voice deep, gravelly, and definitely not human. Finally, the human arrives. The voice echoed through the shaft, low, heavy, like stone grinding on stone. Aiden froze on the ladder. Thorvin looked down, his eyes narrowing. Another glow moved in the black below, not the steady beam of a torch, but a shifting liquid light like molten metal caught in a jar. The voice spoke again. "Drop your weapons. Come down." Aiden gripped the ladder tighter. "I'm not," Thurvin interrupted, his tone sharp. "Do it. They can smell fear." Aiden swallowed, sliding the gold hunter's blade into its sheath. The pistol followed, clinking against his belt. They climbed down, where the light grew stronger, until it painted the walls smooth, carved stone, covered in strange grooves that pulsed faintly under the liquid glow. At the bottom stood 3 figures. The tallest was the one who had spoken, a broad, heavy-shouldered alien with skin the color of old bone and eyes like cracks filled with fire. He carried no visible weapon, but Aiden had no doubt he could crush his skull with one hand. Beside him was 2 smaller shapes, both wearing masks made from scavenged drone plating. Their breathing was slow, deliberate, and perfectly in sync. The tall one studied Aiden for a long moment. "Human," he rumbled. "You survive longer than most. This is unusual." Aiden forced his voice to stay steady. "And you are?" "I am Varric. I keep the last of the living from feeding the ground." Brock turned, motioning for them to follow. The tunnel ahead twisted, the walls shimmering faintly with that same molten glow. It wasn't light from a lamp. It was alive, flowing along. Veins in the stone like blood. Aiden's skin crawled. "Hera, what is this place?" Her voice was faint and his helmet still damaged. "Warning, anomalous biostructure. Energy readings beyond, static swallowed the rest." They stepped into a chamber so vast, Aiden couldn't see the ceiling. Clusters of the glowing veins formed massive pillars, each one wrapped in scaffolding made from shipwreck metal. Hundreds of beings moved through the space, some insectoid, some scaled, some impossible to describe without twisting the mind. All of them wore the same look, weary. But watching, Aiden felt the weight of their eyes. "This is the Hollow Refuge. We hide here from the skies and the ground." Thorvin crossed his arms. "You mean you hide from the machines?" A ripple of movement passed through the crowd below at that word, as if the sound itself was dangerous. Varric's gaze sharpened. "We hide from what they serve." Aiden frowned. "They, the drones." "No," Varric leaned in, his voice dropping to a near growl. "The drones are only hounds. The true master is older, and much closer than you think." Before Aiden could press him, a shout rose from the far side of the chamber. Masked guards dragged in 2 captives, one a reptilian alien, the other another human. Aiden's stomach lurched. The man was gaunt, filthy, but alive. It lifted his head, his eyes locked on Aiden's instantly. "You," the stranger said, voice hoarse. "They said you'd come." The crowd stirred. Varric stepped down from the platform, his expression unreadable. He studied the stranger, then, "Aiden? You know him?" Aiden shook his head slowly. "I've never seen him in my life." The man laughed, a hollow, cracked sound. "You will. We've met. Just not yet." The air in the chamber seemed to tighten. Even Tharavan shifted uneasily. Varric finally spoke. "Bring them all to the Deep Council. Let the roots decide." Aiden frowned. "The roots?" Varric didn't answer. He simply turned, leading them toward a massive gate grown from living stone. As they passed through, the temperature dropped. The walls here weren't carved, they had grown naturally, twisting into shapes that resembled faces, hands, and eyes. The light from the veins dimmed until the only illumination came from below. A deep, slow pulse that matched the beat of a heart. The gate shut behind them, and Aiden finally saw what Varric had meant by roots. In the center of the cavern lay a tangle of colossal black tendrils, each one as thick as a starship's hull. They pulsed with that deep light, and every so often, one would twitch, as if tasting the air. The sound they made was not plant-like. It was breathing. A voice rose from everywhere at once. It wasn't sound, it was inside Aiden's skull. Human. "You bleed, yet you endure. The Deathworld remembers your kind." Aiden staggered, clutching his head. What is this?" The stranger in chains looked almost relieved. "This is the one who's been waiting for you." The tendrils shifted, one lowered toward Aiden, the tip splitting into delicate, finger-like strands. They hovered inches from his helmet. "We will give you the truth. If you give us your memory." The roots touched the glass of his helmet. The world tore apart. It wasn't pain, it wasn't even touch. It was like someone reached into his mind and turned his thoughts into a hallway, and then shoved him down it. He stood on a battlefield under two suns. Burning machines towered in the distance, tearing the ground open with drills the size of towers. Bodies, human, alien, unrecognizable, lay scattered like broken toys. Voice whispered from nowhere and everywhere. This is where it began. Aiden's boots crunched on black soil. He wasn't in his suit anymore. He was wearing armor, battered, cracked, but his hands, they weren't his hands. Too big, too many scars. He looked down. The name etched into the breastplate wasn't. Aiden Cross. The ground shook. From the smoke, something emerged. Not a creature, not a machine, but both. Its limbs were blades, its eyes burning searchlights. It moved like it had no weight, leaping impossible distances. The voice came again, colder now. "We called them harvesters." The thing landed in front of him. Without thinking, he swung a weapon he didn't remember picking up. It's a blade. Connected sparks and black fluid sprang into the air. The harvester screamed, but the sound came from inside his own skull. The scene tore away like wet paper. Now he was in space, floating among shattered ships. A giant dark shape moved between the wrecks, so large it made the warships look like pebbles. Its body pulsed with the same black tendrils he'd seen. "In the cavern? You call it a Deathworld," the voice said. "But it was not born this way. It was made as a weapon." Aiden's head spun. "You're saying this planet was built, grown, fed, programmed to endure?" "Your kind helped." His stomach dropped. "That's not possible." "Then why?" the voice asked. "Do we remember you?" Suddenly faces. Hundreds of human faces. Men, women, children, their expressions frozen between fear and defiance. They were looking up at something he couldn't see. Every face burned into his mind like a brand. The world snapped again. He stood in the hollow refuge chamber. But it was empty. The glowing veins were dim, the scaffolds rusted. Dust filled the air. At the far end of the platform stood the chained stranger from earlier. Only now, his eyes weren't tired. They burned like twin suns. "You see it now, don't you?" the stranger said. "This isn't your first time here. It's your return." Aiden's throat was dry. "What are you?" The man stepped closer. "I'm what's left of the first human who survived this world. I'm the memory it kept, because it knew one day you would come back." The ground trembled. The roots in the walls began to writhe, reaching toward both of them, the man's. The voice was urgent now. "They'll show you more. They'll make you see everything. But you have to decide, do you want the truth, or do you want to leave?" The tendrils closed in, the cavern shuddering. The voice of the Deathworld whispered, almost gentle this time. Choose human. And understand. Either way, you are already part of me. Aiden's hand hovers between grabbing the stranger's offered arm, or the survival pack on the ground at his feet. Whichever he chooses will decide if he learns the full, terrible history or tries to run before the Deathworld finishes claiming him. The air was heavy. Every breath was a decision. The stranger's arm, the pack on the ground. One choice would give him answers. The other maybe would give him freedom. The roots whispered like 1,000 voices speaking in unison. They called his name. Not Aiden, the other name. The one he'd heard in the visions. He clenched his jaw. If the Deathworld wanted him to stay, that meant it needed him. And if it needed him, that meant he could hurt it. He reached down, grabbed the pack. The stranger's eyes widened, just for a second, before fading into a calm smile. So, you run, the man said softly. Then you'll carry the truth with you, and it will eat you alive. The roots surged forward, slamming into the platform. Aiden threw the pack over his shoulder and sprinted. The tunnel shook, as if the planet itself was trying to crush him. Walls split open, black tendrils lashing out. The lights on his suit flickered red. Oxygen critical, structural integrity failing. The AI's voice was breaking apart like static. He reached the surface into a storm that tore the sky in half. Lightning struck the ground in jagged white scars. The jungle howled. Every creature he had seen in the past days, clawed beasts. Armored titans, winged predators, they were here now. Circling the clearing, their eyes reflecting the stormlight, but none moved closer. They just watched. The ground under his boots pulsed. And then, the voice came again, but it wasn't in his head this time. It was everywhere, deep, vast, older than anything human. Leave if you must, but you will return. The clouds tore open just enough for him to see it, his escape pod half buried in mud where the blast had thrown it days ago. Stumbled toward it, climbed inside, sealed the hatch. The engines roared weakly to life. The pod lurched upward, tearing through the storm, through the viewport. The Deathworld shrank. Mountains, oceans, jungles, storms. All alive. All watching. Aiden's reflection stared back at him in the glass. But for a heartbeat, just a heartbeat, it wasn't his own face looking back. Space swallowed the planet behind him. But the weight in his chest stayed. The visions, the voices, the stranger's last words. He had escaped. But in his bones he knew the truth. No one ever really leaves. A Deathworld. The end.